All right, so this is going to be more of a training session than, let's say, the typical lunch and learns that we've been going through. The first thing I want to cover is pipe networks, right? Seems like an easy topic. There are a couple of error messages that you guys might experience when you're opening up existing executc3 files. That's where your pipe networks are drawn for the discussion that we're going to have today. The discussion we're having today is really geared towards conflicting existing utilities, right? Because that's about 95% of how we use pipe networks in this building is for modeling existing utilities that cross our proposed trench alignments. So that's what it's going to be focused around. So the first error message that you may see, this will pop up when you open up the drawing file inside Civil 3D. You'll get this screen basically, minus the photo. What this has to do with is it's Microsoft Visual Basic, and what this is it's kind of a legacy error. Previously, in older versions of Civil 3D, pipe rules used VBA software code language to run, basically. Civil 3D no longer supports VBA pipe rules. They've transitioned to something called .NET, which is a different kind of framework and is integrated into Windows in terms of your computer programming language. So you may get this error. This whole window pops up. You kind of, where did AutoCAD go? What you need to do, just close it all down. You'll say, hey, do you want to stop debugging? Say, okay, close it down. And then the next thing you want to go to is in your menu bar under Pipes, Utilities, convert VBA pipe and structure rules to .NET. That will kind of resolve that. Hopefully all your drawings are using .NET, but there are still some legacy projects around that I've seen this error pop up. So I wanted to kind of tackle the errors before we get into how to create. All right, so that's one error. The second error, sometimes you're in AutoCAD and you're trying to create a pipe network, and this error, this event viewer, otherwise known as your panorama window, pops up. And what you'll notice on the right-hand side here is unable to run macro, validate rule. Again, this has to do with code changes inside the software. Basically, it's a different .NET version from 2013 to 2016. So if you see an error like this, what you need to do is open the new executc3 template and import your rules. So the rules are a style inside the drawing. They're under the Settings tab. So I'll just open up just a blank template here, just to kind of show you where the rules are hidden. So in your tool space, Settings, scroll down to Pipe Rule Set. You would drag this into your new file, and it would update the rules and the programming language that it uses. All right, so those are the two possible errors that you can and probably will encounter if you're working on older legacy projects. All right, the new stuff, pipe networks, plan view. So I'm going to try to do this from scratch using an existing job as kind of my base, but I'm going to create all this on the fly, so hopefully it goes well. First thing to cover, there are two ways to create pipe networks inside Civil 3D here at NV5. The first is kind of the default AutoCAD Civil 3D workflow out of the box. Basically what it does is it uses your standard pipe rules to set the pipe elevations, and that's all you got. Here at NV5, we're fortunate enough to have our own proprietary way of setting pipe networks through the NV5 tools, and that utility is pipe from points. That is the preferred method here, right? In our typical projects these days, almost 95% of the utilities are probably potholed, right? So we want to hold off on creating pipes as long as possible, hopefully till we have that pothole information. If you create pipes not using that pothole information, you're basically going to have to delete them and restart over when you have the pothole information, right? So make sure your project managers understand that process. And if they have any complaints, please send them my way, because it is a dramatic time saving. And also, you're better if you do it once, not twice. All right, so we're going to cover both of those ways of creating pipe networks today. Pipe networks for existing utilities are drawn in what file? Good, you guys were paying attention. How do you draw them? You draw them over the existing line work in your EXUT, right? And the great thing about using the right template is that the pipe networks are pre-populated for you, right? So let's go ahead and start that. We'll use a new drawing, new template file from EXUT C3. What's the very first thing we want to do in this file? XREF, right? We want to XREF in all of our base files so we know what we're doing. Should add a link. So I'm going to XREF in the EXTO, EXUT, and our PRUT. Yeah. Of course, I want to change this to relative path, right? Oh, and I can't, right? Because I have to save the drawing beforehand. I'm not going to worry about it. The reason why I'm not going to worry about it is because the next time I open this file, they're all magically going to change to relative for me anyway. And this is just a demonstration. All right, I'm going to kill all this stuff because I'm not interested in it. So here's my site. All right, what's my next step? I've got all my base files. Now I need to data shortcut, right? So the things that I need are my EXTO surface file. Why is that important?
As a reference for all the pipes.
Correct. It's probably the most important aspect of the project. So I'm going to data shortcut that. And I'm also going to data shortcut the alignment, just so I know where we are in the world to things. All right, so we're going to bring that in. All right, so now we're pretty good. I'm going to do a quick DDV, right? Ooh. Or not. Not loaded or something. I'll do it the old school way. Who's glad they don't have to do this anymore? All right, I just wanted to get a good orientation to do some pipe networks. All right, so I've set up my file, right? This is pretty good. The next thing we want to do is what? There's a new file. What's next? Anybody? Anybody? Pipe networks. What do I need to do with these pre-populated pipe networks?
Set
Set the rules? No? Any other ideas? Delete them. Oh, I hope not. Set the surface associated with each one. All right? So I'm not going to do all these. I'm just going to do the water. So we right click on it, edit network. And then this second icon is to select the surface, set it to my EXTO, and that populates here. So it's now using the EXTO surface, which means all my rules will be utilized when I go to create these pipes. All right, so this is a very important step. Do not miss this step because you can't function without it in method 1. All right, so I'm just going to do the, I'll do a couple. I'll do sewer too because sewer's fun, right? So you have to do this for every pipe network in your drawing. What's that? Correct, but I mean, you have no business being in the EXUT-C3 file if you're not doing pipe networks. And of course, you only have to do this on your initial setup of the file. Once the file is set up, all your pipe networks should be attached to the and using the surface. So now when I go to create pipes, it will use the rules and the surface to set my pipe inverts. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. By default, you get null structure. Keep it at null structure. We're not interested in structures, right? We only care about the pipe itself. And then I'm going to select a 2-inch copper pipe because that's what I know this pipe to be, right? Right. And then I'm going to pick 2 points. being sure to pick somewhere on the pipe that allows for some future changes in my alignment, right? I don't want to create the pipe just a short little segment here, because if my alignment changes 2 feet this way, I'm no longer going to be able to use the pipe. So be sure that you create the pipe, giving yourself some leeway in terms of making adjustments to your alignments later on. All right, so there's our pipe. And like anything, we want to verify that it was created correctly, right? So in our properties window, we can go over here and look at the elevations. Our invert elevations are about a 311.75.76, right? If I hover above the surface here, my surface is a 315.05, so my invert makes sense, right? What kind of rule is this gas pipeline using? If my surface is a 315 and my invert is a 311, 3 feet of cover, right? All right, so that's kind of what the rules do. Is it kind of uses industry standard design parameters to set all these pipes. All right, if you're ever curious what exactly is being used, you can check out the pipe rules, right? I showed you where those were: settings, pipes, pipe rule, set. Let me close that guy. Let me go to the one, my right file, pipe, rule set. These are all the rules in your drawing, right? There's basic cover rules, and then there's some specific ones for sewer and storm drain, but that gets a little bit more into design. So that's where the rules are. How they associate to any part that I draw is via the parts list for each network. All right, so for gas, I'm gonna go in here. I'm just showing you this. You do not have to know this. This is just for the curious minds in the room. This gets into basically how the software is created, really. But here's all the sizes for the copper pipe. And what you'll notice is that all the copper pipe for the gas is set to 3 feet of cover. All right, so that's the rule that it uses to create a copper pipe. In fact, that's the rule that it uses for all material of gas pipe. So any gas pipe that we draw, it's going to assume 3 feet of cover. Obviously, this is an assumption. Yes?
Well, I guess the question was, can we change that? Because some pipe requires 5 or 10.
Yes. So you can change the rules. However, at this point in the game, we're assuming depths for utilities, right? This is not a good workflow, right? Because everything about this is assumed, right? Hopefully we like to engineer things a little bit better off of assumptions, right? So yes, you can come in here, change rules, and it will respect that. So let's change this real quick. Let's do 6 feet of cover, right? So I changed all of the steel gas pipes to do 6 feet of cover. I'm going to delete that guy. I'm going to change this guy to my gas. I'll use a 12-inch just to make it easy. On this pull down here, make sure that it's pipes only. We don't care about structures, right? So we only want to draw and only want to model the pipe itself. I'm going to create the same pipe again. When I click on this, what should my inverts be? My surface is 315. What should my invert be approximately? I'm now using 6 feet of cover. 309.5, right? Ooh, 308. Oh, 6 feet. 6 feet. 308.5, but then you got wall thicknesses to go down as well, right? So you always want to make sure that it makes sense, right? All right. So yes, we can change the rules and the pipes behave and act accordingly. However, this is obviously not a very good method of designing. And hopefully we can hold off on creating pipes until we have pothole data, right? We want to use that pothole data to set our pipe invert elevations. So that's method 2. Method 2 is the proprietary NV5 tools. So what we first need to do is we need to import all of our pothole data, right? So in our tool space, survey tab, I've already created a survey database using the all points point file, right? That's not really new to many people. So I'm going to open for read only because I'm not going to edit anything. And I'm going to go in here and I'm only going to insert the points, right? Why don't I want to insert the import event? I have other stuff part of that database, right? Mainly survey figures, right? And I'm not interested in survey figures for this file. And it'd be awesome if my computer freezes. That would be great. Hopefully we can wait this out. This never happens to you guys, right? It's only when presentations are happening, right?
AutoCAD always works automatically for me.
Always. All right, there we go. So I'm going to expand this, go to survey points, right click, points, insert into drawing. So this is going to insert every single survey point associated with the project, right? Now, what am I after? I'm not after every point, right? Because that's a nightmare, right? I'm already getting a headache looking at this, right? I know I am. Hopefully you are too. So what we're going to do is we're going to modify our display settings or our point groups to just show the pothole data. So in tool space, switch back to our prospector, go up to our point groups. You'll notice that you have a pothole point group, right? Doesn't have that little bullet point to it. Why? Need to update it, right? So if I hit update, it now updates. So right now my pothole point group is above the no display. So right now only the pothole points are displaying, right? If that's not the case, let's say if it was like this, right now all points are showing, right? And there's some things that I don't really care about, like paint marks, right? I'm not interested in paint marks. I only want to see the pothole data. Or it didn't work at all. That's cool too. So now I'm seeing all points, and then I'll move all points down, and hopefully the gas paint mark one on my screen disappears. That's the hope, right? And of course it doesn't. So let's troubleshoot it real quick. Go into potholes, let's look at this guy, see what does it include. That looks pretty good to me. I'm actually going to get rid of the before. If you're ever in doubt, you can go to your point list and it will show you everything in here. Well, what is this including? It's including a lot of photo control, right? And then potholes. So in here I can just do a quick exclude, and I'm going to go photo. Alright, I'm going to ignore why it doesn't. Oh, I know why. So the no display group should include all points. That's why. Right. So now we're only seeing the pothole data. Perfect. I'm going to drag a couple of these just to make it a little bit easier to see. So I'm just going to drag the descriptions just to kind of clean it up and make it nice and easy for us to use. Right. All right. So let's create a pipe, and I'll do the same for the gas, just for kicks. All right, so now we got some good data to use. So we'll create two pipes, one for the water and one for the gas. All right, so we want to use the method 2, the preferred way. We're creating from pothole data. So in our ribbon, we have the NV5 tools. Click that. And then this icon right here is your pipes. We're going to go pipe from points, and it's going to bring up this screen here. So now we need to pick what we're actually going to create. What network are we going to use for this first one? This first one's going to be water. What material is it? It's copper, because I can see that in the survey data point right here. So it's a 0.75 inch copper. So I'm going to change this to copper. and then 3/4 inch. All right, so now I'm ready to create my pipe. How do I want to create the pipe? Do I want to create it using 1 point or 2 points? I've got 2 points, so let's switch over to 2 points. Of course, things get funky on a laptop, right? So I'm going to click this button, which is the select your start point. You're going to select this point. And it disappeared. All right. And then I'm going to select my second point as well, which is this guy. And then I'm going to look and see what was my cover on these guys. 40.5 inches, right? That's what it says in the description, to the top of pipe. So down here, I type 40.5. It's set to inches, and my elevation is top of pipe. It's a very important step, especially when we start talking bigger pipe diameters. If you don't select top of pipe and instead you have inverted pipe, your elevation in your pipe is going to be whatever diameter it is. That's how much it's going to be off, right? So this is a very important step to make sure you know exactly what your depth is and what it is to. Typically, it's to the top of pipe, right? But occasionally we will have a flow line, especially for our dips, all our sewer and storm drain dips. All right, then I'll scroll down. The pipe data automatically fills in using the 2 points as its point name, and then it gives a description of what data it used. And then at the very bottom, hopefully I can get to it. Maybe not. Oh, sad. I cannot get to it on this screen. But at the very bottom, yeah, it's not going to let me on this laptop. On the very bottom, there's a button for create pipe, right? We've all seen that. Trust me, it's there. Display issues with the HDMI.
Did you add that name, or does it populate?
It automatically populates that.
Keep it like that.
What's that?
Keep it like that.
Yeah, keep it like that. It's very clear where this pipe was, what it was created from. So it tells me, hey, it was from this point to this point. So if there's any question later on about where this data came from, or if we have a conflict in the field, we can go back and know exactly what was wrong. I would love to actually create this pipe, but I can't. But it would create using this data, and it would have 40.5 inches of cover to the top of pipe.
Can you type in the point number, or do you gotta click on it?
Here you could type it in if you wanted to. I would just click on it. It's easier. A lot of times you don't necessarily really see it, and you can always fat finger one. So I definitely recommend just selecting it. Seems to be a pretty easy workflow. All right, so I'm going to close this, unfortunately, because I can't create it. But that's how we create pipes using pothole data, right? Pretty cool, pretty easy. Awesome. Any questions on either method 1 or method 2?
So you suggest to actually delete the original pipe networks and add if we have the pipe network, pothole information?
Yes. The issue with going method 1 and doing all the assumed elevations, the only way to then adjust that data down to the correct invert is to do a lot of math, right? You take your surface, your point surface, minus the cover, minus the thickness of the pipe, minus the diameter of your pipe. It seems like a lot of math where you're going to fat finger or mistype or miscalculate, right? In my opinion, it's a lot quicker and easier to delete your pipe and recreate it using the pipes from points.
Does that mean that I suppose we need like a new labels to do it?
Ah, that's a great question. Yes, so that's the next topic is we've created our pipe. Now we need to label it in the profile view, right? So great question, and that's what's next. Any other questions, Rick?
Yeah, I saw that when you had that dialog box open, it already picked up the elevation from the point. Is it necessary to be redundant and give it a depth as well? It's supposed to pick up the elevation for the point, right?
Most definitely, you have to give that depth. So let's do that again.
So what's the purpose of having the, picking up that?
So this point, the elevation that it picks up is the surface point, the point of the shot itself, right? When we go and gather this survey data, what's our data?
Measuring down, physical measurement.
The point itself, the survey shot, is at the asphalt,
Yeah.
top of asphalt. They are not, in this case, they are not shooting the top of pipe.
Do they ever?
Yes, they do. So, which comes into play on the next step as well. It is very important that we're clear of what we're picking up by our surveyors, right? It's always a good idea to know what your surface elevation is at every point. And I should have been a little bit clearer about that too. When I was hovering over the surface, if you recall, the surface elevation was a 315, right? So yeah, when we see a 314.5, hey, it's a surface point elevation. So you should always be using that hover command over your surface to kind of verify things as you're going throughout your workflow. But that elevation that it picks up is the point elevation, and that point elevation is your existing ground elevation. There are instances.
Would be different, right?
Yes, there are instances, especially when we're doing as-builts, where they will actually shoot every crossing pipe, and the elevation they shoot is the top of pipe elevation. And in that case, you won't see in the description 40.5 inches top of pipe. It will be actually sub-X is the way that typically we shoot that, especially in the gas group, is that the crossing utilities are sub-X, and that will be the designation on the survey point. So yes, if I don't enter a depth here, it's going to create this pipe at the surface elevation. So this is a must. You must enter your desired
So if it was
cover.
a sub-X point, you wouldn't have zero depth.
Correct, because you're actually shooting the pipe itself. But you would still need to specify top of pipe or invert of pipe.
There's two different ways that sub-X are shot. One is the P-sub version, in which sub-X, at the time, P-sub required us to shoot the actual pipe, like the gas pipe, and then you take 2 shots at the crossing. Currently, SDT and SoCalGas, we shoot 3 shots, one at the center of the crossing and one at both ends where it's coming out of the crossing. So all 3 of those shots are going to be above your pipe, above your new gas pipe, as opposed to P-sub work where you have 1 sub-X shot on the pipe. So you got to watch out for that. We've had that come through on a couple of SoCalGas because the crews thought you were still doing, P-sub requirements versus SoCalGas and SDT.
And that's also a point, interesting point, is to make sure you separate the 2 workflows of design versus as-built, because the data that you receive is going to look and be completely different, right? So for this was a design application, standard pothole, came back, it's already filled in, and we have the information literally painted on the asphalt. So that's the information we're getting. All right, so let's.
We don't typically shoot the actual item. We're usually shooting a marking on the surface.
Correct. And that description, they're picking up from the paint that's been painted on the asphalt. Any other questions before we move on to labeling?
Do you have a preference of how you should remove a pipe? I noticed that you
Delete.
click delete. So you're okay with that?
Oh, yeah.
That's because that name there is going to be unique based on those points, whereas if it was pipe 1 and you click delete, then it would just jump to 2. Like if you were doing the other method.
Correct.
People
Correct.
sometimes they tell you like remove it from the.
Which is another reason why method 2, using pipes from points, is a far better method. When we do assumed pipes, let's do one real quick.
They're just going to be in order, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I think I deleted that gas pipe, right? Let's just create a water one right here. We always want to edit the existing network, right? We never, ever want to go to pipe, create pipe network by layout or object. Right, Andrew? What happens when you do this? You are literally creating a new pipe network. And what we've seen is, we've seen drawings with 900 pipe networks. And also when you do this, when you create a pipe network, you have to specify the name, the part list to use, the surface to use. So this is actually a lot of work. If I go in here and create a water, I have to specify use the water, use my surface. I'm going to call this water 2. So this is not what we want to do. We do not want to create a separate pipe network for every pipe crossing, right? This list would get polluted rather quickly. And then you have to manage all these pipe networks in your profile as well, which then becomes a lot worse. And you'll see that in a minute. We want to
have them delete each one though. I don't think he'll do it again.
Yeah, so be sure not to do this. These are not necessary for our workflows. You're always editing existing pipe networks in your exutc3 file. All right. Everybody comfortable on how to create pipe networks? Cool. There is a handout. There is a walkthrough step by step. So next time you encounter this in your workflow, send me an email and I'll send you the PDF and say, hey, here you go. It's got screenshots and everything. So it's beautiful. Not that I'm biased. Oh, we got a quick learner. Man, she caught me on that, didn't she? Huh? All right, so I created a new drawing. I'm using the SDG&E underground distribution file. So I'm going to go through the same process, right? I'm going to xref my base files. So I'm going to xref the same base files, right? EXTO, EXUT, and the PRUT, which is just basically the line work for the proposed trench. All right, so my base files are over there. I'm going to move these blocks just in case I need to use them later. Ooh, all right, F8 worked. So I'm going to put those there. What's my next step? I need a data shortcut in a bunch of stuff, right? So what do I need a data shortcut in? I need to shortcut my alignment. I already set up my working folder. I didn't want to bore you guys completely. I do that well enough, right? I'm going to do my surface. Never use the standard style. Always pick an MV5 style. And what else do I need? Pipe networks, right? So I'm going to bring in the gas. I'm going to set these. It's unclear whether or not they actually need to be set, but I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to give it the parts list, and I'm going to give it the surface just to be certain. And I'll bring in the storm drain and the sewer just for kicks, just so we have something fun to play with. All right, so we'll bring in every pipe network. Don't have to set an alignment. All right, so I brought in 3 pipe networks. Still working on that last one. Ooh, and I'm going to get some error messages. Basically, style null structure, style standard, I can ignore those. Those aren't important. They're structure styles anyway, and we don't draw structures. We're not interested in the structures, so I'm going to definitely ignore them. I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm just going to look and make sure I have some pipes. If I hover over this, you can see, hey, there's my sewer pipe. Ooh, I do not have a water pipe here. Whose project is this? We're missing a crossing. Right? We're missing a couple crossings. But we got a couple more. Oh, I didn't bring in my water. Never mind, right? I only brought my gas, sewer, and storm drain, right? Sorry, Philip. All right, so our pipe networks are in here. So I'm going to create a quick profile. Kind of walk through the whole process of creating the profile here. So the first thing I'm going to do is use the menu pull down, create profile from surface. What this does is it takes my alignment, takes my surface, If I had multiple alignments, I could pick which alignment I wanted to use. If I had multiple surfaces, I could pick the surface I wanted to use. And then I hit add. So there it is. There's my surface. I'm going to go down here and pick a style for my surface, existing topography. I'd also like to name it, right? But I can't. It won't let me, all right? So we'll take care of that later. We can clean that up. I could hit OK, but I'm actually going to draw it in profile view because it will then create a profile view for me. So this is just like a consolidated process. Draw in profile view, pick my alignment, pick my profile view style. Which one do I want to use? I want my major and minor grids to be 150, 1 and 10 vertically. And I'm going to assume this is a 40 scale plan, right? On a 40 scale plan, our vertical exaggeration is 4. So that's the one I'm going to select. Never use automatic for your station or elevation ranges. Anybody know why I make that statement?
Because once you have like a really dramatic drop and will just pop out with all those elevations change.
Correct. Everything will change automatically for you, right? You want to be in control of this because you're going to place blocks on top of this. You're going to do all kinds of line work. All that line work is not dynamic. It's not going to adjust when your alignment changes, right? So you don't want your grid to automatically expand and contract. You want to be in control. I've been called a control freak. Turns out it's true. So I'm going to enter manual values here, giving myself, 100 feet on either side, just so I know I'm capturing the entirety of my alignment. So that's good enough. We'll do the same thing for elevations. Make sure you do user specified. And lo and behold, it actually picks pretty good user specified ones. We typically want to go about 20 feet below our minimum and 20 feet above our maximum. And program kind of picks that up automatically. So we'll go to next. Profile display property options. This is the profile from surface that we just created. Yes, I want to draw that in my profile view. These are the pipe networks available in my drawing. So I did data shortcut those 3 in. This drawing has a PREC. Why? What would we draw in the PREC? Any vaults, right? We're going to draw our vaults, our structures. You'll notice I can't select it because it's an empty network. There's nothing to display. So that's why you can click here all day and it will just glitch out like that. So we'll hit next.
Should there be vault? No.
Eventually. I just started this file 5 minutes ago, right? So I'm not quite there yet.
At some point
You should draw your vaults in your PREC, and then those will display in your profile. If we have enough time, we'll do that. Databand, I need to create a databand for you guys. We'll just use the standard one now. Profile hatch. Eventually, we will use a fill area to hatch in between our top of pipe, or top of encasement and bottom of encasement of our proposed trench, but right now we don't have those developed. So we're going to just create profile view. Select somewhere off to the right where we can create this view. And there we go. There's our profile view. And it has all of our pipes shown as soon as it wakes up. It's probably doing an autosave, right? So if we zoom in here, we can see this is our design surface and we've got our pipes, right? So in 2013, how did we label our pipe networks? Painfully. That was the answer, right? It was this workaround. It was this proprietary workaround, right? Civil 3D 2013 did not have a way to label crossing pipe networks in profile view. So what we did previously is what we were labeling those pipes with was not a pipe network label at all. It was a profile view label, right? So we had hundreds of styles, right? A style for every size and a style for every material, right? Thank God we don't have to use those anymore, right? So in 2016, this alone should make you want to use 2016. If it doesn't, there's something wrong with you. I'm sorry, there is. So we no longer use this tool. No longer use it, right? Doing it this way, it will take you, what, days, weeks to label all these pipes. I'm going to do it in a matter of, let's say, an hour or two. I'll have every crossing utility labeled and labeled correctly. I'm not going to show you because we're not going to use it. This one. You do not want to use that. Trust me, this is way better. So we're going to go up to pipes, add pipe network labels. And anytime I use the menu bar, I'm always going to select that top option because it brings up a dialog box and I get to set my styles, right? If I just do this, it's not going to let me specify which style I want to use for each label. So always select the top one and it'll bring up this infamous utility. What feature? We're labeling a pipe network. Label type, we want entire network profile. Pipe label style, we want none, because that's actually profile. It labels them in profile. We're not interested in that. Well, actually, it'll do it in profile too, plan and profile, but that's not the label we're wanting. Structures, we don't want structures, so turn that to none. This is the new category that did not exist prior to 2016. This is new functionality. Crossing pipe label style. That sounds exactly like what we want. All right, this pull down. These are all new styles. No one has seen these before. These were developed last week. Right now, when we're doing this, use the change me style. All right, we'll hit add, and then we'll click on a network. Oh, there's my storm drain. There's my sewer, and that little guy is probably my water, right? So what it does is it will add labels to the entire network. So you just have to click the 6 or 7 networks that you have, labels all the pipes, right? Now we have this change me style, right? White text. Who likes white text? No one, right? So the reason for this is create them all on this change me style. We're going to come back and specify what style we actually want for these labels. Ooh, I forgot it. Very cute. Oh. So one thing we want in our proposed profile drawing, I'm going to save this because drawings never crash, right? I'm going to bring in my pothole data, right? That's pretty important. I need to know what of these is potholed, what is assumed, what's calculated, right? So I'm going to bring in my survey points again. And this next step, we're going to have to do a little bit of workaround on this project. Our next step is looking at these pothole points and using these in our profile. All right, so point groups, we've got pothole. I'm going to update it. And I'm going to look at this pothole point group and see how many points we have in it. Ooh, 732 potholes. The next step that I want to do is I want to select all these pothole points and project them to my profile. All right, there's a couple reasons for that. Do not project more than, like, I said 350 points to a profile, but depending on your computer, 350 may be pushing it. Even my machine, 350 was pushing it, all right? So I would not select this entire point group and project it to profile. You will cry. So what are we going to do? I'm going to copy this pothole point group. I'm going to go in it, and I'm going to edit this to exclude points greater than let's see what that does. I excluded too many. All right, I'll go in and look at my points. 30,000. 30,000. So I'm going to exclude anything greater than 3,100. right, what did I do?
Update first.
We'll do 250. Know your data set before you try to showcase it, right? All right, so this is much better, right? This is just 55 points, which is going to be good for this demonstration. So we have 752. I would probably split that into 3 separate point groups. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to save my file. I'm going to right click on this 55 point group. As soon as it's done saving, I'm going to click select. It's going to select all my points in that point group. I can verify that in my properties. It says Kogel point 55, right? So it's picked up those 55 point groups. And then the command I'm going to use is project objects to profile. Project objects to prof. Hit enter. Select your profile view. It's going to ask you what styles you want to use. This step, I'm on the fence. I'm going to pick this point, number, and description. I'm going to show you why, and then it'll be up to you whether or not you want to use it. All right. So I'm going to use those 55 points, and even using just that small point set and data set, we're going to sit here for a minute or two. All right. So that's why I say do not do all your points, because you will sit here for a while. Are there any questions while we wait for these points to project to the profile? The great thing about projecting these points to your profile is you're going to know exactly which utilities were potholed, and you can double check to make sure that the data was entered correctly. Because now if you have that point, you can create a dimension to list the cover, and so you can verify that everything in your profile is correct. What is the biggest cost to our client on our jobs, on our underground jobs for SDG&E? Potholing data, right? Over 50% of your budget is for existing utility crossings, all right? It's rather embarrassing when we screw one up, right? Client just paid $500,000 for pothole information and you screwed one up. So this is very important to get accurately, and using 16, it becomes a lot easier. All right, so let's see where those points projected. We've got points projected. So right away, I know that this 2-inch steel gas pipeline is potholed, right? Here are my 2 points. Ooh, display.
Are there?
You'll notice that the labels have question marks. This is my one gripe about that label, is you actually have to associate it with the point. Once you specify with the point, the data shows up. Yeah, that's why I said it's kind of on you whether or not you want to specify all this data. It's helpful because you see that it was a 2-inch gas and 22 inches of cover. So then the next step is draw a dimension from, let's say, that node down to top of pipe. And obviously we want to use a style, right? Well, look at here. We have a profile with a 4 exaggeration. How handy. 22 inches of cover is what our description says, and what did we come up with? 1.5. So we've got some fluff there, right? Well, you'll notice what point I used. I used the lower one. Where it actually crosses, it might be up here, which is a lot closer. All right. So just this is a good way to kind of double check your data, make sure that you're getting expected results. But it's only meaningful if you populate all these points, and I'm on the fence on that. I will let you and your project manager decide whether or not to populate all that data, but it is a good way of checking. Yes, Mike?
Can you select similar and populate them all at once?
They have to be manually done one by one for both the point and the description. So, yeah. So, like I said, I'm not necessarily saying do that. I'm just showing you what's available. I probably wouldn't go through all that effort, quite frankly. That's a lot of time. But if you've got the time, you got the budget, you've got, some ability to absorb that, it might be a good idea. I've always added the dimensions on my plan, regardless of whether or not I have the pothole data. All right, so we know that this utility is potholed, so let's change the label style. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to select the label style that it is. This is a new process, all right? There's 3 levels of survey accuracy to our existing utilities. Assumed, which is just anybody's guess, right? That was method 1 of assumed cover rules. Hopefully we don't use many of those, right? The fewer we use of those, the better. The second is calculated. That's where we're taking 2 known points, let's say 2 sewer manhole dips, and then we traverse or calculate something back in the middle. That would be a calculated accuracy level, or the best type of data is a pothole data. All right, so we've got those 3 categories. So we've got styles for those 3 categories. Next thing we need to know is, what is the elevation that we're going to use on this crossing? Is it going to be a top of pipe elevation or a bottom of pipe elevation? All right. So typically, how do you know which to use? Well, where's my clearance? Is my proposed trench underneath the existing utility? If so, then what do I want to use for my existing utility? Bottom of pipe, right? Because that's where the clearance is. So select the appropriate one. This one, I know that it's potholed, and since it only has 1.6 feet of cover, I know that I want to label the bottom of pipe because my proposed utility is going to be below that. So I'm going to select this style. All the information is there. So I've got the station, got a 2-inch steel, gas. I need to fix that call out, right? That should be gas, not EX, GS. So I'm going to change that. And then this is something new, potholed. It tells you what level of data you're using. And then your bottom of pipe or top of pipe will appear after your elevation, all right? So these are the new labels to use. And if this pipe changes, your label is going to move with it as well. You no longer have to go through a batch update with those old labels or anything like that. It all moves with it as well. All right. So pretty cool, right? Way better than the workaround, right? So all you have to do is go through and then change all these. I know this is potholed. I know it's going to be bottom of pipe. Change it. All right. Any questions on any of that labeling? And then, of course, you can do the same thing. The very first thing you're going to do with this label is what? Turn on F8, right? So your ortho's on. Pull it up. Turn off your O snaps, right? Right? Because you know you're going to have to drag these up a little bit and move them around. And then probably the next thing you want to do is add a vertex. So I'm just going to add one. And then from there, we can do all kinds of customization to get these to display correctly in our bundled mess of existing utilities.
And you can do match properties, right, on that one?
Match properties for the style?
Yeah, so another label that you haven't changed the style of it, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you can match properties. Just be careful doing that because sometimes it's going to be hard to see what you're actually, like this one I know it's potholed. Versus when I'm zoomed out like this, I don't know what level of accuracy I used to create this pipe. So sometimes you need to kind of zoom in pretty close. So match properties may not be the best workflow. Your best workflow may be selecting it, using your properties, and changing it. But obviously use whatever works best for you. There really should be no reason to edit the text of these labels. All right. Do not edit the label text. All right. We've had some pretty big issues with users doing that and doing it incorrectly. So do not edit the label text. Come see me if you think you need to edit the label text because that means we need a different style. Right. So what are the things that, hey, what's missing right now? let's say this was a high pressure gas line, right? What do I need to have on that label? Caution, right? All right, so if you notice in here, you've got caution, right? So this is a caution pothole bottom, right? Same thing with your package. If this is a package of utilities, this is something that we can kind of talk about too. Here's your package pothole. So it's just going to be gas package pothole. And you got two elevations here. It'll be your top of package and your bottom of package. All right. So that's a little change as well. We're adding a little bit more data, a little bit better information to our plans. All right.
Now these labels are the style matches SoCal gas standard? No, right?
No, not yet.
Okay.
So
I'm leaving.
so I just implemented this for the electrical underground. The next step is to put it into the gas template. So I will do that and kind of talk to you guys, probably Garrett and Blake, make sure we're in conformance with what SoCal Gas wants to see.
Because it's just the textile.
It's really just colors.
Yeah, and also the profile grid is different.
Correct. So obviously I used electrical underground. This specific template was distribution. I had to pick something.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
But the styles have not made their way to gas yet. So that's a good call. All right, so we should be pretty all comfortable creating pipe networks, adding them to our profile, labeling them in profile, making any updates, any changes, right? This is one of our big 5 workflows here at MV5, especially in the power group. Pipe networks probably being the most used, the most budgeted, right? So hopefully we're all on board. There's handouts. If you want a handout of basically the step-by-step walkthrough, I'll open it up real quick here. Give me 1 minute. So this is what it looks like, basically. I'm going to hide that because I don't want you guys seeing where that is. Ah, you guys saw it already, right? So this is something new, something that I feel very strongly about, is documenting our procedures and our workflows, and I'm going to start doing that. So you guys will all, by the end of the year, hopefully have a nice little packet of, hey, this is how we do something. So this is basically what I covered today, except it has nice little screen captures and really step-by-step on how to do our procedures. So when we have new employees come on board, we can hand them this document, and they should be able to jump into the workflow and follow and fit right into our conventions. All right. So I'm developing this stuff. This is obviously new, but it's there for pipe networks for plan, profile, and labeling, as well as our vault labeling. I didn't have enough time to cover that, but there is a write-up of that as well. All right. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you. Where's the paper?
Thank you.
Where's the handout? Email me.
Thank you. Thank you.